honor for us to host the Translating Europe workshop on localization and technical writing. And I wish to thank the European Commission for granting us this privilege and its generous financial and organizational support. This is our seventh Translating Europe workshop organized with the European Commission's representation in Poland. I'd like to welcome a representative of the European Commission for Translation and Multilingualism, Mr. Krzysztof Nalepa. We're proud to offer this platform for researchers and practitioners who share a common interest in localization and technical writing. I'm also very pleased to welcome our partner organization, the Women in Localization Poland chapter, a non-governmental organization. The Institute of Applied Linguistics, the oldest and most renowned institution of higher education, training translators and interpreters in Poland, is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And I believe this is the right venue for the event. Our institute is the only in Poland member of the European Consortia, the European Masters in Conference Interpreting, the European Masters in Translation, as well as the worldwide consortium CUT. We train translators and interpreters in 5 official European languages, English, French, Spanish, German, and Swedish, as well as in Russian, Japanese, and very recently, Polish Sign Language at BA level, MA level, and post-MA levels. Our mission is to provide state-of-the-art professional training for translators and interpreters, and we recognize the need for our students not only to be well-versed and skilled in using new technologies for their professional activities, but also to gain expertise in more specialized aspects of their profession. The dynamic nature of the Polish translation of linguistic services market and of the Polish translation market, where new professional profiles such as localizer and technical writer emerge, for students, graduates, and translator trainers to constantly refine their skills and knowledge concerning new technologies, automation, and market requirements. We hope that this conference with lectures and workshops will offer a unique opportunity to explore new skills and competences required for localizers and technical writers, also in order to update and extend our training programs in the future. But first of all, we hope to create a forum for the exchange of ideas and best practices in these fields, linking academics with the industry. Before I give the floor to our co-organizers, I'll take this opportunity to thank my colleagues from the Institute of Applied Linguistics for the joint efforts to organize this Translating Europe workshop from the very idea to its final shape. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very successful conference. And now I give the floor to Mr. Krzysztof Nalepa, representative of the European Commission for Translation and Multilingualism.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anna. You personally, and as a representative of the Institute of Applied Linguistics, that has been our well-tested partner for quite a few years, and we have done, as you mentioned, quite a few projects together. Based on that, I can say in all confidence that the Institute of Applied Linguistics has actually contributed to the development of translation in Poland. Translation understood as science and understood as profession. We are very thankful for your cooperation, and we hope this cooperation will continue in the future. I would like to thank all of you for coming, for taking your time, for participating in this event, both live and online, because we have also viewers online. But I'm particularly happy to see you here, to see the live audience. It's a great pleasure to me after this murky period of pandemic absence. Now, I have really missed these kind of human interactions, and it feels a little bit like a family reunion to me, a reunion of a translator community where we can exchange our ideas, experiences. So again, thank you very much for coming. Well, on occasions like this one, I like to compare translation to journey and travel from one language to another, from one linguistic environment to another. And as far-fetched as this comparison may appear, it serves the purpose of illustrating the change that has occurred. In travel, several generations ago, combustion engine was invented to enable movement. Today, we are talking of space travel, or remarkably, we are talking of not traveling at all, because we have all these electronic devices that enable meetings without moving. But this is the wrong way of thinking, and it shouldn't go that way. The same with translation. The change that has occurred in this beautiful art and craft of translation is tremendous, even compared to 10 years ago. Today, we are even talking of translation without the involvement of humans. But again, this is a wrong way of thinking about translation. Humans will always be there, will always be needed, and I'm sure they will be needed even more. Our discipline is changing, so we need to comprehend this change, we need to follow this change, we need to learn new things to be able to meet the requirements of the market. And this is what this conference is going to be all about. We are going to focus on two important aspects: localization and technical writing, which are very, very important today. We're going to discuss it with experts who know all about it. So I'm sure we all are going to have a great experience. I wish you a nice, constructive, inspiring conference. And without taking any more of your time, thank you again, and let's get it started.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's working. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you as well. My name is Grzegorz Kowalski from the Institute of Applied Linguistics, and I will be the chair of the first lecture, of the first presentation. This first presentation will be by Ms. Agnieszka Bartczak, who is graduate, graduate of the Faculty of Law and Administration of the University of Warsaw, the diploma in law, and also she holds a diploma in Latin American Studies of the Center of Latin American Studies, also of the University of Warsaw. Since the year 2007, she has been working as a translator and terminologist in the Directorate General for Translation of the European Commission. And since the year 2016, she has been the main terminologist of the Department of the Polish Language. The title of the presentation is Dealing with Technical Terminology in the Directorate General for Translation. Ms. Bartczak is already here, so I would like to give you the floor, and let's listen to this presentation.
Good morning from Luxembourg. Thank you very much for inviting me to this workshop. Could you please make it possible for me to share my presentation, please? it's not possible yet.
Can you just try to see if it works? Because I have it on my settings that all participants can share the screen.
Sorry, this option is not available for me. It was a minute ago, but it's not now. Maybe I'll just try to leave the meeting and reconnect. Can you see my presentation now? Sorry, I can't hear you now.
Yes, we can see the presentation, so it's
Okay.
on the screen.
Okay, great. So I'm sorry for this connection issues. I hope it's going to go smoothly now. Good morning again. I'm really happy to be here in the University of Warsaw, although only online. I would like to present you an outline of the terminology work at the European Commission from the perspective of the Polish language department where I work. Very briefly, who we are and what we do. DGT at the European Commission is just one, although the largest of language services working in the EU institutions. We have around 1,400 translators. Each of these institutions, which you see on the screen, works on terminology in their own way. Here I will be talking only about the DGT experience. What we have in common with all the institutions is IATE, the Interinstitutional Terminology Database. This is our output in the last years. As you can see, last year we translated well over 2 million pages, more than ever, while the number of staff is dwindling. This is the red dashed line. That was the last year. This year might break another record, we'll see. Sorry. excuse me. That was about how much we do. Now what we do. More than half of our workload is related to the legislative procedures. Another big chunk of our work is communication material. And in fact, any type of these texts can be highly technical, taking into account the vast array of policy domains of the EU. And how is our terminology work organized in DGT? We have a central coordination unit and terminologists in 24 language departments who work on terms in their respective languages, but not only. What is our approach to terminology work? We strive to be as proactive as possible, which means that we focus on providing terminology for documents which are currently under translation. I will tell you more about extraction and the early terminology work on the next slides. Help desk is a big part of our workload as terminologists, and it means replying to questions from our translators whenever they have any terminology issues in an ongoing document. Our work is multilingual. All terminologists work parallelly in the multilingual IATE database on terms in their languages, and it enables us to mutually inspire each other. We also closely cooperate with our colleagues in other institutions, for example, in correcting entries in the database and filling gaps in IATE. We work in a collaborative way, which means that terminology coordinators from the central unit, all terminologists and also translators share information on terminology via internal communication tools. For example, we inform each other whenever we come across any reference documents. We share information obtained from the authors of the document. We also share our terminology findings, which might be useful for other languages. Also, monolingual terminology extractions prepared by one terminologist are made available to all the others. Not only information, but also tasks are shared. For example, if any of us who has specific expertise and time, irrespective of the language department, any of us can perform a monolingual extraction and create a new multilingual IATE entry or propose a multilingual terminology project. Speaking about projects, DGT's terminology work is project-based. Projects are launched on the basis of documents that we translate, both ongoing or finalized. We also run thematic projects, which are aimed at filling gaps in our database in a given domain, or at covering a completely new area of EU policy. Now let me present you a workflow that we implement for terminology intensive dossier. We start with a terminology extraction, which can be either automatic or manual. It can be a monolingual extraction when we extract terms from the translated document. We often also prepare a bilingual extraction of terms from basic and related legislative documents for the sake of consistency. Sometimes thematic extracts from IATE are also useful. Then on this extracted material, we perform what I call the early terminology work. We work on concepts in the source language, which is mostly English in the DGT. We work on definitions. We often ask for clarifications from the author of the document. What we do next, we filter out already established terminology, and we find the new terms with the help of internal and external sources and experts. And here comes in the collaborative approach I've mentioned earlier. Terminologists share tasks according to their specialization. And here, translators with expertise are also involved. If we don't have this necessary expertise in-house, we consult experts, either internal commission experts or national experts. What happens to the result of our work? Terms with their language equivalents are injected into term bases used by translators. Once the translation is ready, term bases can be used to verify consistency of used terminology. Recording terms in IATE is shown here as a last step, but in fact, terms are fed into the database on different stages, sometimes early in the translation process, sometimes only after it is finalized. It happens sometimes later than sooner, because we need all up-to-date references to complete and validate IATE entries. What are the sources of technical terminology for us? As said before, first we identify the existing terminology in the domain. By existing or established, I mean here terminology that we already have in our resources. First we search IATE, and when we translate legislation, which is often terminology intensive, we are legally obliged to use terminology from basic and related legal EU acts. So we need to source terms from these acts. First, we have to identify them, then extract terminology from these documents, above all the defined terms. How do we establish new terms? We rely on the network of experts, both internal and external, and of course we search various sources like scientific publications, dictionaries, glossaries, but also national legislation, industry websites, and so on. To develop a little bit on the issue of established and new terminology, I'd like to add that we deal with two different kinds of new terms. First, those which are in fact existing, established ones, but we don't have them in our database yet. And to find their target language equivalents, we need to consult sources and experts. It was the case of this long-term seasonal energy efficiency ratio, which we already have in IATE, but there was a time we had to find it and feed it into IATE. Secondly, we also come across terms which are in fact coined by the EU. I call them EU technical terms, and they don't exist in any scientific publications, but they are of course very much related to the existing terminology, and we have to translate them on the basis of these existing terms. It was the case of this term active mode seasonal energy efficiency ratio. To find the right equivalent in our target languages, we had to refer to two basic terms, seasonal energy efficiency ratio, and of course to the equivalent of the active mode. How do we ensure the quality of terminology in DGT? First, we work, as I mentioned before, we work in a common database, IATE, which is based on ISO standards. And we work on its constant updating and consolidation. We use term bases, and we use tools such QA Checker to ensure the consistency of terminology in our translated documents. We also build our internal expertise of translators and terminologists by means of education, work experience, internal and external trainings. We also built a network of experts inside and outside the Commission in the member states. We also outsource some specific terminology corpora to highly qualified experts in the domain. Results of such work of experts are imported into IATE. So that was it from me. Thank you very much. If you have any further questions, you can contact me at this email address. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bartczak. We have a few minutes for any questions which you can just ask to our speaker. So I open the discussion. Please, if you have any questions, I will just let you ask them now. I must say that I was quite impressed when it was just presented these figures, and then you show that all this works in a nice algorithm and it just works smoothly. But I understand that what we do not know is that sometimes behind this smooth process there are some debates and discussions, and there is often some points of debate which have to be solved before some term is settled, is established. So I think that we also have this other aspect of this algorithm not working so smoothly from time to time, that terminologists simply or discuss whether a particular term should be used in such or such form. So perhaps this is also worth noting. Okay, okay, we have a question.
If I may, thank you very much for technical vocabulary, technical terminology. As a terminologist, can you see any difference between the domains in terms of complexity of the terms and your work as a terminologist? Would you say technical terms are in a way different or more difficult to deal with? Or would you say it's indifferent to you if you work on a medical term or a technical term or a legal term? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this question. And referring to also to the previous comments, I just wanted to say that, of course, not everything is so smooth and optimal as we would like, and we are not able to process all the well over 2 million pages that we translate. We are not able to establish and debate on every single term that we come across on these 2 million pages. So the time is our biggest enemy, and the amount of our workload. And coming back to the question about the technical terminology, well, the biggest issue I think is how much, to what extent the given domain is covered in our resources. We encounter issues with new domains, like in the case of the COVID pandemic, which came as a surprise to everyone, also to us. We didn't really deal with medical terminology before. So we had to fill in these gaps very quickly. Now, and unfortunately, we have to deal with military terminology, which was already a little bit covered in our databases, but still we have a lot to cover. So I don't, from my perspective, there's no domain really more difficult than the other. What really counts if we have resources, if we know experts whom we can rely on. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I can see. Yes, that satisfies the person asking the question. Okay, do we have any other questions you may want to ask? Yes, we have another one.
I have a question related to training, because you said that you relied also on specialists. So you have external specialists, you consult outside of the DGT, but I wanted to know if you when you work with specialized translators. So, for example, do you rely on the background of various people who work at the DGT? So they come to work at the Commission with different backgrounds, different experience, or maybe what kind of training do you offer? Because you also mentioned that you do offer some kind of internal training to translators. Is it about being specialized, like some translators only focus on certain fields, or is it that everyone works on any possible field, provided that they are given relevant terminology, for example, by the terminologist?
Yes, first, DGT employs linguists, of course, but not only. For example, in our Polish language department, we have translators who have very different backgrounds. Not all of us are linguists, or not linguists only. We have people with economic background, legal backgrounds, not so much technical, but I know that in other language communities there are people who are even doctors or architects. So this background is taken into account at the recruitment stage. And once we are already here, of course, we have a chance to specialize. It is very much encouraged. There are translators who have been specializing in translating a given type of documents in a given domain for years. At times of workload peaks, sticking to this specialization is not always possible, but it is a rule that we specialize in given domains. And as for internal training, it is very targeted. For example, now we are planning a training on wine terminology because documents on wine specifications are very often translated here and very often contain a lot of difficult terminology. So we are inviting an expert who will clarify it a little bit to us. We plan training every year according to needs, also in terminology, based on terminology help desk questions that we get, so that we fill these gaps in our specialization.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We still have time for one short question, if there is any. Okay, there is one final question.
Hello. Okay. I wanted to ask, because you showed us the diagram that stated that you translated more pages than ever, but at the same time the staff is smaller, and I wanted to know what made the process more effective. And I know it's not terminology related, but more like project management perhaps, but maybe
I don't know if you have seen this on this slide, but we rely more and more on outsourcing translation. And I haven't talked much about it here, but we also searching for efficiencies with the use of IT tools, of course, with the use of machine translation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our speaker, Ms. Agnieszka Barczak, for being here, at least online. So now I would like to invite you to a coffee break, which is just outside the room, and 9:40, so in 10 minutes time, we start our workshops. There are 3 workshops, and one of them is here, so if you are interested, if you are assigned for the workshop Jak trudno jest pisać prosto, Technical Writer w świecie nowoczesnych technologii IT, this workshop will be held in this particular core, and 2 other workshops are on the level -1. Thank you.
And even if you're not registered for the technical workshops, you're very much welcome to come here and listen and attend the workshop. Thank you very much.